Depending on where you are tuning in from today, welcome to today's webinar, 5 Reasons Why You Should Implement an Office Hoteling Solution. Before we get started, I would like to check the audio and make sure that our audience can hear us. If you'd please, let me know if you can hear us loud and clear by using your webinar tool. Please raise your hands and we'll take a look at our audience. Wonderful. I see some hands already raising. Let's just give it a few more seconds for a few more people to raise their hands, and we'll begin shortly. Thank you, everyone. My name is Paul Schwabe. I'm a business solutions consultant with RMG Networks, and with me today is Diane Stegmeyer, the founder and CEO of Stegmeyer Consulting Group. Diane is a globally recognized leader in workplace change management and the author of the book, Innovations in Office Design. We're here today to talk about office hoteling as it relates to the workplace and workforce challenges facing corporations of every size. During this webinar, we want to encourage you to use the question tool and send those questions to us. We'll be answering the submitted questions at the end of the webinar during our Q&A session. If we're unable to get to all of the questions and answer those during this event, we will email you a reply following the event. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's meet our presenter. Welcome, Diane.
Thanks, Paul, and welcome to today's audience. I'm excited to learn about the registrations coming in from numerous geographic locations around the world, and I'm especially interested to see the diverse industries represented by members of the audience. Paul, I think we have a hot topic here on hoteling.
I absolutely agree with you. So let's not delay. Oh my gosh, wow. There appears to be a growing number of lists of terms being used here today and describe the challenges that we're all facing in the workplace and the way we work. This is clearly a confusing and overwhelming. So let's demystify and share some of the hard trends that it's reshaping the office environment landscape. Diane, help us out here with some of these terms that we're seeing.
This truly is overwhelming. We see this with clients all the time that are exploring new workplace strategies, and we have observed that many terms are being used interchangeably. The phrases for new ways of working or specific names for workplace strategies are being used incorrectly, or the intent of a particular work style can be misinterpreted. Whether it's connected work, it's mobile work, it's reverse hoteling, distributed workplace, it truly can be overwhelming for clients that are trying to make the right decision for their own companies. And quite frankly, if you have a low sense of confidence, it's going to be apparent when you're seeking approval for a new workplace initiative from the C-suite.
I can totally agree with you. So to help us in our discussions today, let's focus really on the term office hoteling. This is spanning from multi-story buildings to an on-campus facility layout and its impact on its employees who need a temporary workspace for a few hours, a day, or even possibly more. Diane, I'm going to look for your insight into the behavior and the strategy to overcome the resistance when these remote workers come into the corporate office. Your
Absolutely. Thoughts? Thanks, Paul. I do think that there is a primary area of resistance that resides in mid-level managers. Even though working from home, remote work has been around for decades, really, it still is an issue of lack of trust in many organizations, and managers might not even voice that externally. It may be a thought that is looming in their mind and causing them to want to deny requests for remote work. Yet it's happening. A lot of it's happening under the radar screen. I think one of the most important things by creating an infrastructure for hoteling or new ways of working is going to be one of the ways to help reduce some of that resistance. I do want to mention, we're talking about working at home or remotely, but I want to mention an emerging trend that's driving a significant increase in hoteling, and that is on-campus mobility. We see more and more clients that are engaging Stegmeyer Consulting Group to develop and implement programs to support employees' freedom and flexibility by giving freedom and flexibility for employees that are within the walls of the corporation, but allowing to choose from a variety of workplace settings does meet some of the needs of different work styles, and having the office hoteling system, having the policies in place are going to create that infrastructure for success. So freedom and flexibility, regardless if they're working within the one high-rise building or various company buildings, if there truly is a campus, the on-campus mobility is an emerging trend.
Well, let's take a look at some of those. So, oh my God, so do I understand the left and the right? So for nearly 18 years, I was a remote worker. And all those behavioral attitudes you just briefly mentioned, Diane, I had to overcome. And if only my employer had an office hoteling solution, how different my life would have been. So let's kind of understand the difference between a hoteling and hot desking. Office hoteling is a reservation-based, unassigned seating. But remember, it's a reservation. So I can reserve my space. This fella here on the left, well, he looks calm. He looks like he's composed, he knows what he's going to be doing, and then he's going to start his work. My life, for many of those 18 years when I would travel and to fly to my corporate office, not only would I be racing down the hall, I'd be racing in my rental car to get there before all my peers. The hot desking is an unassigned seating. So let's really think of that as a first come, first serve. Diane, please share with our audience some of your thoughts.
I'd be happy to. Talking about the behavioral side, for the people on the right, rushing down the hallway, there's an element of truth, even though we sort of laugh at the picture of people are racing to get to work. But there's an element of truth in that. One of the biggest fears of remote workers is when they come in the office, is there going to be a seat that they can find that's vacant to use? We've seen that again and again in focus groups with employees that are considering, their employers are considering hoteling or hot desking, and the clients quickly understand that having hoteling where you have reservations, where you have an element of control, and having the mid-level managers feel comfortable with that too, clearly is the right way to go. One thing we talked about a couple slides ago was the various terms. One thing that I want to point out, the terminology that is used infrequently the most often is free address. We hear organizations say they want to implement a free address system, and they think it's hoteling, and it's not. It's more of that first come, first serve.
Diane, thank you. I really am feeling that you're helping the audience here. I'm already seeing some hands raised and some questions coming in. I think this is wonderful. I think we are really helping others to see some of the benefits here. So let's really examine some of those 5 reasons why a hoteling office solution would benefit not only the employer, but the employees. So the office hoteling can help spot areas which are used most, or let's even take a look at the contrary, not used. And it can help you understand what spaces are too open, they're uncomfortable because of the environments, HVAC, acoustic, maybe somebody who's not cubicle polite, and they talk too loud. Diane, I know you've got a lot of experience here. Could you share some more?
I'd be happy to do that. Obviously, there are tremendous benefits to your company's real estate and facilities group. They're charged with, making sure that they're getting a good return on investment on the asset of the physical space. And having spaces, Paul, as you mentioned, having spaces that people aren't using because it's too noisy or it's, the heating doesn't work, people are going to ignore those spaces and that is truly underutilized space. So being able to identify areas that need to be fixed or improved will help then employees have more choices of spaces, even though a choice may be on the reservation system. If they don't like that space 123B, they're not going to use it. So let's fix that space and let's have it more usable. When we look at quantifying the success of reducing cost and maximizing the use of space, I think one of the organizations that's documented it the best is the Gartner Group.
I couldn't agree with you more.
I mean, I think this is very compelling. You look at the statistics here. Providing a workspace to an individual employee costs an organization from about $8,000 to $14,000 a year, and that's in U.S. dollars. I'll explain to our international audience members. And that's every year. So eliminating 100 workspaces can save an organization $1 million a year. I will tell you a commentary to this Gartner, these statistics. In collaborating with numerous corporate real estate professionals in our work, I've been told that these numbers are very conservative. So your actual savings could be a lot more significant than that. But I would also like to comment on the flip side. As your organization grows, cost avoidance becomes a great benefit. You can fit a greater number of employees into the existing square footage.
Well, Diane, you're absolutely correct. So you've helped us now with the space, optimizing that, but let's talk about when the people do get together. Let's talk about their morale, and let's talk about that work-life balance. I mean, we're all social. We do better by each other. Isolation is really stifling to creativity. What we have here is we now have a method for employees to save time in commuting and not wasting time hunting for a spot. It also lets them know, hey, we can be more sensitive to our environment. I'm coming into the office because I know my other coworker is going to be there and there's space by them. Diane, your opinions and thoughts on that?
We have some very specific information I'd like to share. Our research findings has revealed that there is a common thread amongst every generation in the workplace, and that is the increasing desire for work-life balance. We have found that with the way many baby boomers had been going through the recession and their retirement savings had been hit negatively, that people are hanging on to their jobs a little bit longer, but work-life balance is still a goal. You know, we talk about the different generations. However, the chief human resource officer in many organizations is most likely losing sleep at night focused on one generational group in particular, the millennials. We have estimates that we've read in so many different documents that by the year 2020, 40% of the working population will be millennials. Today, 88% of millennials want, or I should say demand, work-life balance. How are they going to attract and retain this next generation of leaders? There's a huge emphasis on millennials.
Well, that's wonderful. But listen, don't exclude me. I love my millennials, but I'm a baby boomer. So how does this affect me? Because I still am going to be around, hopefully, till that 2020.
Well, Paul, I have to say we're not in the, you're not alone. We're in the same boat. The notion of work-life balance indeed applies to baby boomers. Even though we may, you and I, you know, in our careers, we may have been kidded for being, you know, married to your job and all you care about is work. You know, as we said, you know, the baby boomer generation actually is looking at, you know, different waves of retirement, and the work-life balance certainly applies. We're seeing some of the actual workforce strategies focusing on things like phased retirement. So as you're rebuilding your nest egg for retirement, you want greater work-life balance, you may be adopting things like compressed work weeks or part-time hours for baby boomer executives who never would have taken, a day off. So in the meantime, I would suggest that maybe you and I can coordinate our flex work calendars to schedule a shuffleboard game.
Well, you have me convinced. You absolutely have me inspired here. So let's focus on these remote workers for the number 3. These are an unplugged group. They have been very mobile their whole life. They know how to feel as part of a team, whether they're in the office with a worker or not. But they do travel, which makes some of their rejoining the workforce in their workplace, as you previously indicated, there's a psychological component here. So when I do come in, I need to immediately be productive. I want to contribute. Your opinion on that and thoughts?
Well, it's a two-edged sword. I mean, you see the positive. Remote workers typically love the freedom and flexibility of this work style. However, managers of remote workers, as well as the peers who may work in the corporate office but not be remote themselves, need to be conscious of the fact that remote workers can sometimes feel disconnected from their team when they do come in the office, and they've missed the water cooler talk because it's informal rather than they called in for a team meeting on Monday afternoon. They miss some of that. So it's a challenge to those who work with the remote workers to truly make them feel like they are part of the team, regardless if they're in plain sight or if they're working remotely.
Well, I absolutely feel comfortable that we're addressing the needs to that new workforce, for these millennials that will come in. Let's think more about that group and how they're directed. This is a very visual group that we're talking to. And that leads us to our 4th point here in office hoteling. That's the workplace productivity. You can see this individual, they're self-guiding. They know what they want to do. This individual, obviously, in this visual solution, they're coming in. They're able to take a look if they want to collaborate more into a group setting with multiple seats and desks, or they may want to, for purposes of having a call with a client or somebody else, a more private office kind of situation. How does this really help in that workplace productivity?
Well, I think with the productivity, putting the control, I've used the word a couple times, but having more control is going to allow people to feel like they can select the spaces that they're working. They're, not walking around the floor trying to find a vacant spot that they can work. We see that so many times with clients, where clients will call us in and say, we're out of space, we're going to have to do something, we need help with managing the people side of that. But when you tour their space, it's like it's a ghost town. So people don't even know spaces that are available. To be able to quickly walk up to a kiosk and say, here's the space, and it's perfect for the number of people I'm meeting with, it can save numerous bouts throughout the day of trying to find the spot that you need that's appropriate.
Absolutely. What I'd also like to, this really helps streamline a whole process. This doesn't require an administrative assistant or somebody to administrate or control or guide others there. They're able to do that themselves. So really this is giving, again, the employee their flexibility of choice of where they want to work. Let's all be honest here. It's time critical, and it really also helps, if need be, in an emergency situation, whether that be for an important client call. I need to locate another coworker. Where are they within the building environment?
And that's one of the fears we have heard from clients, that if we're going to have people that are moving around to different spaces around campus or on one large floor, how are we going to find people? That's a big fear. This solves it in a way that, again, creates that infrastructure.
Diane, you have such insight. It's great that you've joined me here today. Let's kind of think about, because that fear is real, that really diminishes itself by collaboration, by an employee engagement. When I'm with another, fear seems to diminish. I know that there are silos within departments, but when I come into an environment like this, I can group. I can group within a coworker or a group of coworkers. Do you have some opinions on that?
I do. When we look at the topic of greater collaboration and employee engagement, I want to point out a couple of comments because we see these as not so much trends, but increasing in importance for clients as it relates to employee engagement. Improving engagement is a common focus for our clients really around the globe, and many organizations are formally measuring engagement annually or semi-annually. What we don't see is that they're linking that to use of the workplace, which is essential. Interestingly, our research has revealed that employees who believe that they have some control over where they work have a higher level of engagement than those who do not. And taking that a step further, it's just not control over an admin to say, go book me a room, but to walk up to the kiosk and have that touch of a screen, have it feel very personal, that it does make you feel like you're more a part of the organization. You have that control of choice. The other thought I'd like to share is on the importance of remote workers wanting to come into the office. Obviously, you want them to love their jobs, but also to come into your physical space. And we've probably all heard people scratching their head and saying, gee, I wonder if the conventional corporate office is needed anymore. Will the office as we know it disappear? And that social side of it is critical. I look at the workplace environment best as, it's a social heartbeat. It's a magnet that we want to draw on the colleagues for both structured collaboration, informal interface, and really serving to break down those departmental silos. So, the social element combined with end-user control over where people work can truly contribute to greater collaboration and engagement.
Well, Diane, I've got to thank our audience as well. The questions are streaming in, and you've convinced me. But I'm going to be a little cynical here, and I'm going to say, well, this is all great, but you've got to tell me about some research. And I think you've got some really fine points here.
There are some very compelling statistics out there, and I will tell you, if you are planning a new workplace strategy, probably one of the things that keeps you awake at night is, how I'm going to quantify this, how am I going to go to the C-suite and get approval? Show me the facts. And here are several examples. Aetna, for example, eliminated 2.7 million square feet of office space. A total of 47% of the company's workforce uses flexible workspaces. And they've calculated at $29 per square foot that the company saves approximately $78 million, and that's in US dollars, per year, and that's every year. American Express, another well-known name, saves between $10 and $15 million US annually in real estate costs. They've initiated what they call their Blue Work program that has been very successful in cost savings. Lastly, Unilever has examined much more than just the real estate cost savings, even though that's a huge number. Their Agile Working initiative has resulted in a 12.9% reduction in selling and administrative costs, which includes things like travel costs, so the cost of airplanes and rental cars and hotels. They've found by having the right program, having people supported when they do come in the office, this has really resulted in what they've attributed to 10.2% increase in their revenue. What CFO is not going to pay attention to things like this when you're applying these principles to your own company, be that a workplace strategy or perhaps a pilot of a strategy so that you can test it out yourself?
Excellent, excellent. So I really feel, Diane, that we've really helped the audience here. We've taken a lot of different terms. we're demystifying, we're becoming educated, which really pushes away fear. If we really step back now, we've really come down with this whole concept and idea of really, which as you've previously said, it's been around a long time. But what we're doing is we are applying a visual aspect to this. We're addressing a new workforce environment who will overcome the baby boomers. And really these things really do come down to driving down those workplace costs, but adding that workplace performance. What a perfect storm.
And I would like audience members, if you could remember one thing, think of your own organization. Who in the C-suite is going to debate, no, we don't want to reduce costs, no, we don't want to improve performance? It becomes a great foundation to describe what you're trying to do for your own organization. And I also think this is a good summary because we did talk about a number of different concepts as it relates to working and having the right infrastructure in place for success. If you look at the first element, for organizations to realize significant reductions in workplace cost, things such as consolidating unprofitable facilities. We see this a lot with lease expirations, and after the recession, there are a lot of half-used or partially used buildings that organizations are saying, hey, let's have a clean slate, let's look at closing down the ones that don't work, let's create one space and increase the engagement, reducing energy consumption, optimizing workspace utilization, and that cost avoidance in accommodating future growth. But at the same time, these organizations can improve workforce performance and employee productivity. So providing employees more choices, more control, a better contribution to work-life balance, creating a workplace to attract, inspire, and retain top talent, challenging managers to focus on results versus on face time, and lastly, enforcing accountability at all levels.
Well, Diane, I've got to tell you, I'm just looking at the time and where we're at. I think we're probably at our Q&A portion. What I can see here is we've got just a few minutes left. The questions are coming in, difficult to tell, but I would say some of them are not just U.S.-based, some are coming from different places. Let me take the first one if you wouldn't mind. And that question from one of our audience individuals is, the question is, can we use a Microsoft Exchange calendar or a Google calendar? Absolutely. We're looking at these, RMG looks to leverage these already existing capital investments to coordinate and move people around and to structure them around. So absolutely, yes, RMG's Office Hoteling solution can leverage your existing Exchange calendar or Google Calendar. We can even use a database event-driven application. Diane, I see another question. This would probably be well-suited for you, a question on the customization.
So in customizing a program, in other words?
Yeah,
I can't
absolutely.
Read the question
It might be, if I'm reading this, the customizing, how long would it take to do something that they've kind of seen?
Well, I will tell you that as a firm of change management consultants, we're often adapting to what the client wants to do. So often we're seeing clients that are making their decisions on the workplace changes based on lease expirations. But if you looked at this overall process, it can be as quickly as upfront planning process and really fine-tuning your workplace strategy, and then doing a pilot for 6 months. See how it works with people, working and using a variety of shared spaces. But we are seeing that clients are thinking far in advance. What if our lease is expiring in 2.5 years? What can we be doing today? Something like better utilizing your space can happen tomorrow. You could be working on implementing, Paul, for you with the technology. How much time might you share with the audience in terms of that they would need maybe to work with your firm from beginning to end for the technology side? Can you estimate that?
I would agree. I would probably say the way that RMG Networks approaches its clients is we approach it from a consulting basis. We sit down and we listen to the exact needs. We take a look at things from an immediate need, but also try to anticipate what you might need for the future for your employer as well as the employees. What I can see is that we're out of time here. I would very much like to thank you, Diane, and I'd like to thank everyone who's attended today as we've walked through the exciting topic of office hoteling. As a reminder, you'll receive an email with a link to download this webinar presentation slides, as well as our real-time, maybe a white paper if we can get that to you. What I'd like to do is ask you to be sure to follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter. Diana and I have provided here on our screen for you our emails if you should have some questions. Diana, again, thank you for all your time, and thank you for everyone listening. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.